Hey yo, salute to the people. It's the Social Forecast, the realest channel online. If you're not subscribed, you're out your fucking mind. But yo, let me holler at y'all real quick. So Gayle King did an interview with Lisa Leslie talking about Kobe Bryant. Y'all don't know Gayle King, Google her, from CBS. She's pretty well known. She's considered a legend in media. She did an interview with Lisa Leslie and brought up the sexual assault allegations that Kobe Bryant faced years ago. And it's not just Gayle King. It's just a shout out to Gayle King because I didn't appreciate the manner in which she brought the topic up when she was interviewing with Lisa Leslie. And she's not the only media personality who has done it, but I'm personally sick and tired of people bringing up these allegations as a way to try and tarnish Kobe Bryant's legacy. First of all, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace to all the people who passed away in a helicopter accident, right? But this is my gripe. And I hate that I have to do this, but in the day and age we live in where everybody's so sensitive about everything, nothing that I'm about to say is a slight to any person. I'm not gonna just say woman. Any person who's been sexually assaulted, who's been molested, raped, had someone attempt to rape them, anything along those lines. This has nothing to do with those credible and real life situations and experiences that people have had to deal with. But this is my problem. And you could take out Kobe Bryant and you can interject any public figure, any celebrity, any ordinary person, anyone who has ever been alleged to have done anything of a sexual nature to anybody. In the court of public opinion, right? Once you're alleged to have done something, especially if you're a public figure, you're a celebrity, you're someone who's in the spotlight, once you're alleged to have done something, it's almost immediately lights out. Curtains, your whole career, your whole status, everything immediately declines. And I understand the court of public opinion because most people are of the mindset that if you're accused to have done something, there must be some truth to it. Not a lot of people actually have common sense enough to take a second and think, all right, this person's accused of something. There's two sides, three sides to every story, but there's two sides to every story. There may or may not be an agenda behind these allegations. Now, I'm going to exclude certain situations where there are multiple different people who never came across each other, don't know each other, who have the same story about the same individual. Then common sense would tell you there's probably some truth to it. But when you have a singular incident that is alleged to have taken place, and the court of public opinion says, all right, this person must be guilty because why else are they being alleged? And if what is being alleged isn't exactly true, something happened. And then you take it a step further, right? You have somebody who actually is charged officially, shows up, has their day in court, and let's say it goes to trial and this person is found to be innocent of those charges. Now, my understanding of the criminal justice system, once you are found innocent of charges, you have gone through the entire process, you're found to be innocent, that's it, you're exonerated, in my opinion. Now, depending on what evidence came out during that trial, what information came to light, court of public opinion, there are a lot of people, especially when it comes to sexually related charges, especially women, and I hate to do this, but my women, y'all know this is true. You still will have a large number of people who will still be doubtful and say, he was found innocent, but something must have happened. Now, I'll muddy those waters even a little bit further. In the case of Kobe Bryant, where the charges are dismissed, case is thrown out of court because the person alleging what was alleged does not want to testify, does not want to go on stand in open court and repeat on the record what they accused happened. This is where it's going to get a little controversial. Yeah, a victim could say they don't want to testify because they're so traumatized by what they went through and they don't want to get up in front of all those people and rehash everything. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen. But you can also argue on the other side. a person who makes false allegations may not want to confront that person in court, may not want to get up on the stand and be cross-examined because they know there may not be any real weight to their story, or their allegations may not hold water in court. That's the debate. It's open for debate, because the people who are on the side of just saying, once someone's alleged of having done something, they fucking did it, is what it is. Who in their right mind would allege somebody of doing something if they didn't do it? Especially something that's sexual in nature. People are fucked up in this world. Have always been, will always be. You never know the real reason behind why a person would accuse another person of doing something or not doing it. Especially in the case of a celebrity. Now, celebrities, basketball players, musicians, actors, whatever. Anybody who is of a certain stature, money-wise, and has a certain celebrity status, they're known by everyone, public figures, whatever. There are plenty of cases where, if you want to call it groupies, will interact and engage with said celebrity or public figure, and maybe that person brushes them off after the fact. Maybe that person who engaged in that activity with that celebrity wakes up the next morning and has a regret, or is feeling a way after the fact, right? There have been plenty of cases throughout history where that person who regretted what they did the next morning, or didn't get what they may have wanted out of the situation, or whatever the case may be, turns around and says, this person forced me. I wasn't trying to do what we did. In the act, I said no, or during the whatever was going on, I changed my mind, and this person forced me. I may have started out being, with the whole situation. I may have consented initially, but then I changed my mind during the act. And who knows in that moment what did or did not happen, because we make the mistake with these public figures of thinking that because we may be fans of their work, or we may admire what they do, we may hold them up to a certain, on a certain pedestal. In our minds, we may see them as being of a certain caliber. Doesn't necessarily mean they are, because you never really know a person. You never even know the people you go to bed with every night and what they're doing when you're not around and behind your back, let alone a person that we just see on TV and we just follow because they're a good basketball player, or a good football player, or a baseball player, or a golfer, or we like their music because they're an artist. But why is it? Why in the court of public opinion is someone automatically guilty when there's an accusation and they can never get out from under that? If a person's found to be innocent, there are still people who will doubt and say they got off, they got the money for good lawyers. Something happened and transpired throughout trial where that lawyer, that defense attorney, was able to cast enough reasonable doubt, but they did something. Or in the case, like in this case, where it's dismissed, maybe she just didn't want to relive the trauma of what happened, so that's why she didn't want to testify. What about all the stories that came out where the investigators found inconsistencies or found some things to not be true? We will jump past that. The people who want that individual to be guilty, in the case of Kobe Bryant, wanted him to be guilty. So they said, she may not have remembered everything. There may not have necessarily been total consistency across the board with her story and her accounts of what happened, but something must have happened for her to accuse this. Came from a good home, had good parents, middle American, woman. No reason why she would allege this. Listen, man, I don't pretend to know what goes on behind closed doors. I don't pretend that every athlete, every artist, every actor that I admire and like for the work that they do or for their athletic abilities, I don't pretend to know the kind of person they are when the cameras are turned off. Who the fuck knows? At the end of the day, none of us do. But what I do know is this. What I know is when someone goes through the legal process, someone is formally charged with something, and then however that thing transpires, that person is later exonerated. And in whatever way they're exonerated, be it because of lack of evidence, be it because witnesses don't want to show up and appear and testify in court. Maybe the person alleging the incident changes their mind for whatever reason. Once the court system, as shaky as the court system is, drops those charges and that person is considered free to go, there's no conviction, in my opinion, you can no longer bring that matter up as an attempt to tarnish that individual's legacy. Because if, from a legal standpoint, they have been cleared, however that happened, however it came about, if they are not legally convicted of that incident, that thing that was alleged to have happened, you can no longer tarnish their legacy with that. Y'all gotta decide. Y'all gotta pick a side. Either you're gonna let the legal system, the criminal justice system, work or not work. With all the faults that it has, y'all can't say the person who is found guilty is guilty. Say the person who pleads guilty is guilty. Like, we don't know people plead guilty to things because they understand the charges that may be up against them. They may be advised by their attorneys, by their defense team, that listen, there's a chance this shit may not go the way you want it to go. You may be innocent, but you know, you're a black man on trial, or you're a Hispanic man on trial, and for what you're being charged of, you know that the jury's going to eat you alive, or you know that it's a good chance it may not turn out the way you want it to turn out, you know, in your favor. So you may be better off taking this deal because at least, you know, you may do some time, but you'll come home in half the time or a quarter of the time that you would if you take it to trial and are found guilty. Or we may be able to work out probation, or whatever goes on in those back rooms between the attorneys, defense attorneys, and the prosecuting team. You can't have that same person who's not found guilty, who's exonerated, who's cleared, or whose charges are dismissed. You can't continue to hold them in the same light and put them in the same boat as the person who was found guilty. Even through all the faults, even though we know throughout history there are people who have been found guilty of charges that you look at it and you're like, at the very least, there's enough doubt here for this person to have not been found guilty. And then there are people who are found innocent where you say, nah, this is a technicality. There's no fucking way this person had nothing to do with this. We got to stop holding the person who is alleged to be the victim to such a high standard and look at them in like this perfect light and never second guess or question their motives about anything. And yeah, I could say if a person is emboldened or empowered enough to file charges, they should have that same empowerment to follow through and then appear in court like they're supposed to, follow the process, and get on the stand and answer the same questions. And then there are people who would argue that's not necessarily true. There are a lot of victims of sexually charged crimes who don't want to get in open court and face that person, who don't want to relive that over and over again. Okay, fine. I won't argue that. But if you were the person alleging that something happened to you, and then you choose for whatever reason, in talking with your family or talking with a therapist or talking with someone close to you who says that you shouldn't or don't have to relive that by testifying in court, and you decide, they're right, I don't want to relive this. I said what happened. I did it once. That should be good enough. I shouldn't have to continue to relive this and go through it. Cool. But, and this is the question, at what point does the onus then get put on that person to say, listen, if you're going, these allegations, right, even for the normal, everyday 9-to-5 person, can uproot a person's life, can end a person's marriage, can turn a person's family inside out, their personal life. People can lose jobs, contracts, endorsements, whatever, over sexual charges. At what point should the onus be put on the person alleging these things to actually follow through? You're potentially ruining a person's life with your charges. If there is an ounce of a chance that that person is innocent, or you changed your mind after the fact, or you didn't get out of a situation where you may have wanted, you are no longer allowed, if you choose not to follow through with the entire process, you're no longer allowed to have a negative impact on this person's life. Because let's not act like, for all the people who see this, who might comment or might not comment, but might feel, no, you're putting the blame on the victim. You're victim shaming. Let's knock it the fuck off in 2020. Hold on. Yes, victim shaming does happen. Yes, victim blaming does occur. Yes, it is the job of the defense attorney or defense team to make the allegations less credible. That's their job. It's what they're paid to do. That's their career. It's what they chose to do. Nobody blames you for choosing to flip burgers. Nobody blames you for choosing to be a secretary or an admin assistant or whatever chosen career path that you have found for your life. People let you live. Let the defense attorneys live. It's their job to poke holes in a story. If I'm alleging someone to have done something, then it's my job to make sure that my integrity stands up, because the credibility of what I'm saying happened is important to me. So I'm going to see that through. I can't speak for a woman and what the trauma of being raped or being sexually assaulted in whatever manner that woman felt sexually assaulted, or man, because there are men who are sexually assaulted as well. We're not going to pretend in 2020 that it doesn't happen. Whoever the victim is, whatever gender the victim is, whatever race, whatever background, whatever social class, whatever. At some point, we have to realize two things. The person who is alleged to have committed a crime is a human being, just like the person who's alleging that a crime was committed against them is also a human being. And if we're going to try and poke holes in the story of every accused defendant, at some point, we got to keep that same energy and say, well, listen, person was alone in a hotel room with this person, right? Maybe it was because of their celebrity. Maybe it was because this person was intrigued by their status or their fame or their wealth or whatever. We can't just always jump to, oh, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. He's alone in the room and she said this happened. It must be true. We got to get away from that in our society, because we cannot continue to be so afraid of being accused of victim shaming. We can't be so afraid of being controversial whenever we say, nah, yo, I'm not rocking with this. If this woman or if this individual was empowered enough to file charges, to issue a complaint, then we got to expect that person, the same way the defendant should have no choice but to go through the system when they are accused, because there's really no choice. You got to go through that system. You can choose whether or not to plead innocent or guilty, but once you are charged with something and you have handcuffs put on you, when you are arrested and you are put in the system and there are charges alleged against you, you have no choice at that point but to go through the process and see how it plays out. Why do we give the victim a choice? The alleged victim. Because if a person is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty in the legal system, that's supposed to be how it works, then that person who is alleging what happened, then you're, in my opinion, you shouldn't be credible until you have proven that this is what happened in a court of law. But why is that wrong to say? The bottom line is this, all right? It's a few things. One, this was well over a decade ago. These things were alleged to have happened. The process, the proceedings, hearings, the charges, the trial, everything was underway. This person who alleged that Kobe Bryant did this thing, whatever it was, decided in the fifth hour, right, in the ninth inning, nah, I'm not going to testify for whatever reason. We got to hold that person accountable and say, okay, fine, you don't have to. You're well within your rights to not want to get on the stand, to not want to testify, to not want to continue to recount what happened. But then, if we're going to dismiss these charges, that person should be able to go on and live their life without that thing still tarnishing them. And then that person passes away tragically and before their time. And now we want to throw shade on the legacy of one of the top 5 greatest basketball players of all time, in my opinion. And want to put that asterisk there and say, but let's not forget, 2000 so-and-so. I don't know if it was 05, I don't remember. 2000 and so-and-so. There was allegations. There was charges. There was a trial. Nah, if you're going to put an asterisk, if you're going to talk about it, then when a person in defense, and shout out to Lisa Leslie, who said, listen, those charges, that case, that trial was dismissed. Then you have a Gayle King who says, yeah, but it was dismissed because the person didn't want to testify. Stop talking about this shit like it's fact and like it happened if it was not proven. And stop talking about the person who had these allegations filed against them as if they are a convicted sex offender. That Kobe Bryant was not convicted. He was not convicted. So we gotta get off that shit. We have to. Let that man's legacy be in peace, bro. Because just like y'all want to be so protective over victims, I'm also for being protective over the person who was charged but was not convicted. However the fuck that shit came about. If you want to put a person in the system and say, go have your day in court and face your accuser, then when that court system says, we don't have enough to move forward here. Because let's be real. The prosecutors may or may not make it public knowledge, but if that victim said, I don't want to recount what happened, I don't want to testify in open court, cool. If there was enough evidence of something happening, the state or that court, that prosecutor can move forward with those charges without that witness, without that person going on stand. It happens all the time. So it's more than just that person saying they didn't want to testify. It's more than just that. It was a lack of evidence. It was the prosecuting team not having enough to move forward with those charges with confidence that it will result in a guilty verdict. And because they don't want to take the chance in that situation of having that defendant being found innocent, they say, at this time, we don't have enough to take it to trial. We don't have enough to feel like we're going to reach our desired result, so we're going to dismiss all charges. Come on, bro. That's an exoneration. If you're dismissing the charges filed against me for whatever I was charged with, let me the fuck live. Like, let that man's legacy be at peace. And when an individual says, I know this person personally, close friends, whenever we go out together and hang out, away from the lights, away from the cameras, away from the, the media, away from all of that shit, I have never seen any behavior that would even indicate to me as a possibility that this person may have this in their character. No, you don't know 100%. But let that person live. If they're saying that they're, in their opinion, and based on their observations of that person, when they have been around them, they don't see anything in their character that would suggest this person would have had that in their nature. And you also didn't have multiple women coming out saying, same thing happened to me, same thing happened to me. There's nothing there to point to anything factually happened, concrete enough to meet the burden of beyond reasonable doubt. Let that man's legacy live. Get the fuck off it. Lisa Leslie is 100% right. The media needs to fucking, like, I understand it's a story. Y'all want sound bites, y'all want clickbait. But this man passed away tragically with his daughter and 7 other people whose families have to mourn and plan funeral services, and his wife, who lost a husband and a daughter, has to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on with her life. Let her be able to be appreciative of the fact that the world, for the most part, as a collective, is coming together, showing support, showing their love and respect to this man for what he brought to a sport that so many of us love. Like, knock it off with this asterisk shit. Knock it off with this, oh, but way back when. Knock that shit the fuck off, bro. Seriously. Anyway, I don't pretend to know everything. Let me know what y'all think. I just know what I know. Like, comment, and subscribe to Social Forecast. I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love.